Welcome to the Daily AI and Emerging Technology Market Intelligence Briefing. Here are today's key developments and the market implications, opportunities, and risks you need to know. The consequential development is that AI's technology labor restructuring now has both a price tag and a market verdict. Monday.com will cut about 20% of its workforce, just over 600 employees.
That puts it among 20 tech companies citing AI as a layoff factor this year, while Financial Times figures reported by TechCrunch show nearly 140,000 U.S. tech cuts since 2026 began.
And Amazon, Oracle, Meta, and Microsoft account for almost 50,000 of those cuts while investing hundreds of billions of dollars in AI data center buildouts. What did markets make of that framing?
They were skeptical. Companies citing AI and job cut announcements underperformed the Nasdaq by almost 10% over the following 30 trading days, suggesting investors do not entirely accept the story.
So an AI narrative doesn't shield a workforce reduction from being read as a demand problem. Monday.com still expects up to 20% year-over-year revenue growth for 2026, correct?
Yes. Its restructuring plan is tied to an AI-driven growth strategy, with $45 million to $55 million in net restructuring charges, although co-founder Aaron Zinman said it was not made to reduce costs or replace people with AI.
That distinction matters because this looks like reallocation as well as reduction. Meta moved roughly 7,000 employees into AI-focused roles this year, even as it laid off 8,000 others.
And IBM says it is tripling entry-level hiring for AI and hybrid cloud roles, while Anthropic and OpenAI are hiring rapidly and absorbing talent shed elsewhere, according to TechCrunch.
The physical costs were just as stark. A single downed power line outside Washington, D.C. disconnected roughly 3.1 gigawatts of data center load from the PJM grid within about 30 seconds.
That grid is the largest in the U.S., serving 67 million customers from New Jersey to Illinois. Voltage spiked from Northern Virginia to Chicago, and stabilization took more than 10 minutes rather than the usual few seconds.
More specifically, data centers switched to backup power, and about 3.1 gigawatts, roughly 3% of PJM demand, then vanished. At peak, the grid carried an extra 3.49 gigawatts of surplus electricity.
It took 11 additional minutes to stabilize. Lights flickered across the region, but there was no blackout, and the evidence came from a startup's IoT sensor network plugged into residential electrical sockets.
Ricardo de Azevedo, the startup's CTO, called it the canary in the coal mine to TechCrunch and said these large load events are happening more and more. A similar PJM event occurred 2 years ago.
That raises the underpriced risk. Grids require near-perfect supply-demand balance. Yet Northern Virginia data center failsafes disconnected nearly together after sensing voltage fluctuation, amplifying the disturbance instead of damping it.
And Northern Virginia has the world's highest concentration of data centers. Experts quoted by TechCrunch expect more frequent events and warn that larger incidents are possible without facilities engineered to ride through power disruptions.
The build-out is reaching consumer hardware too. Google Vice President of Devices and Services, Shekhar Barkat, all but confirmed that the Pixel 11 will cost more than the Pixel 10.
He said Google had shielded our consumers from supply fluctuations for as long as possible, but the economics have fundamentally shifted and we're not immune to that, directly reflecting RAM prices soaring on AI data center demand.
Google says Pixel pricing adjustments will be rolled out dynamically to match supply realities. The base Pixel 11 is expected to double base storage to 256 gigabytes, while a single-source rumor relayed by The Verge says RAM may drop from 16 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes.
So, this is not confirmed, but Google has scheduled its next Pixel announcement. The Verge calls Pixel 11 the latest victim of Ramageddon as industry memory prices rise with the expansion of AI data centers.
That language implies prices moving with component markets instead of fixed launch pricing, affecting procurement and hardware planning. Meanwhile, GitHub's tooling news is more continuation than surprise.
Claude Opus 5 is arriving in GitHub Copilot with enterprise fine print, provider API list price billing, gradual rollout, and an enablement policy that business and enterprise administrators must turn on.
GitHub said early testing showed strong performance in agentic coding workflows, including autonomous code changes and regression verification. It also says enhanced safeguards for high-harm cyber content may block some security-adjacent requests.
That creates a smaller but practical issue for security teams standardizing on the model. GitHub suggests rephrasing or switching models as workarounds when safeguards block cyber-related or security-adjacent requests.
GitHub has also moved autonomous remediation onto phones. When a GitHub Actions check fails on a pull request, GitHub mobile users can ask Copilot Coding Agent to investigate and fix it directly.
Copilot opens a new pull request on top of the existing one, analyzes the failed check, attempts a fix, and tags the author for review before anything merges. What does the cost model reveal?
GitHub bills Claude Opus 5 at provider API list price under usage-based billing, rather than including it in flat Copilot plans. That pushes frontier model costs directly to customers.
It also aligns with GitHub's rollout of AI credit pools for cost centers and per billing cycle credit visibility for enterprises. The question is whether budgeting shifts from per-seat spending to metered consumption.
Consumer demand is widening the build-out's revenue base. OpenAI began rolling out Health and ChatGPT to logged-in USV users aged 18 and older across free, Go, Plus, and Pro plans.
Users can connect Apple Health and supported medical records. OpenAI says more than 300 million people already turn to ChatGPT with health-related questions every week, and connected records are not used to train foundation models or target ads.
That demand compounds with Project Camellia in Effingham County, Georgia. OpenAI contracted with Georgia Power for 3.2 gigawatts delivered in phases between 2028 and 2032.
It is a single project comparable in scale to the load that destabilized PJM this week, with hundreds of millions of dollars in expected state and local taxes and an $80 million community benefits commitment.
And OpenAI says Camellia will proactively reduce power consumption before residential customers are affected during high demand, alongside Georgia Public Service Commission ratepayer protections and a closed-loop water system.
Those commitments offer a mitigation template and a possible playbook for social license as siting fights intensify. The question is whether grid operators or regulators impose ride-through requirements for hyperscale loads.
There is also a supplier risk reminder from TechCrunch's Phineas Fisher retrospective. In August 2014, the hacktivists breached Fisher and then hacking team, extracting more than 400 gigabytes.
That material included source code, internal emails, confidential contracts, and customer lists, exposing spyware scandals in Ecuador, Mexico, and Panama. A decade after the most famous hack, the attacker has never been caught.
The hacking team breach ultimately put its source code, tens of thousands of emails, contracts, and customer lists in public, contributing to the company's demise. It is a counterparty risk scenario worth wargaming.
On opportunity, Google committed $40 million in AI tokens and cloud credits to the Department of Energy's Genesis mission, covering its AI for Science portfolio and all 17 national laboratories.
OpenAI is providing $4 million in Codex access to roughly 2,000 Genesis researchers, plus up to $10 million in API usage for $2.5 million spent. There is also an inference cost lever.
Hugging Face's diffusers library now natively loads Nunchaku 4-bit checkpoints. They run main transformer layers with 4-bit weights and activations, reducing memory against the 20 to 30 gigabytes of VRAM. A modern text-to-image model requires in BF16 precision.
They also speed the denoising loop, with no separate inference engine or local compilation needed. Looking ahead, July 28 is the first immediate date. The Model Context Protocol's stateless revision takes effect.
The GitHub MCP server already supports the new specification, which adds official conformance tests. GitHub says that makes AI-assisted client and server development easier to verify, though upgrade friction across the agent ecosystem bears watching.
Also watch Google's Pixel reveal for confirmation of pricing adjustments, 256 gigabytes base storage, and the rumored single-source 12 gigabytes RAM reduction. Opus 5 enablement and usage-based billing uptake will test appetite for list price frontier models.
Monday.com's next results will test whether up to 20% growth survives its $45 million, $55 million restructuring charges, while the nearly 140,000 cuts and NASDAQ pattern remain a live corporate communications signal.
And the larger watch is whether another PJM-scale disconnection, Project Camellia's permitting and community engagement, or regulatory action turns labor, grid, and component price externalities into coordinated rather than piecemeal responses.
That concludes today's daily AI and emerging technology market intelligence briefing. Thank you for listening. Join us next time as we continue tracking the innovations shaping technology, business, and global markets.